Incantation. This is Clint from the Doorway too. Thanks for doing this for such short notice too. I appreciate that as well. Again, just wanted to say, really big fan. Kind of been following your career for a long time. I'm not a kid either myself, so got a lot of great here.
Well, thank you.
It's yours. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the new record to begin with. So I'm really impressed with it. Kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me of the. I mean, more of the Diabolical Conquest kind of Decimate Christendom kind of vibe. Like it's got that darker, heavier vibe, which you seem to move a little bit more into like a thrashing death metal kind of style, if I'm not crazy for a bit. And now you kind of move back to that darker, doomier death kind of thing. And I kind of wanted to see if that was something that was done purposefully or if it was just a natural progression.
Well, it was a natural reaction to the album before. The way we work as a band is each album that we do, the next one kind of is a result of the last one. Like basically, you know, after I finish an album, I listen back to it, and I'm not that I like it or don't like it, but I'll hear things that maybe I could have expanded upon, or things that might have been missing, or you know, part of me that say I want to express on it, I didn't express on it the way maybe I could have. So it just like it's almost like the last album kind of inspires you to do different things. And you know, I thought Profane Nexus was a really good album, but it was a little bit for us a little overproduced maybe. For us, it wasn't quite as, say, dry of a production as I would prefer. It wasn't a bad production. It was just a little bit different, and that was one of the things that I really want. I want to make sure that it had that you know, drier old school sound, not over bitey and stuff like Profane. You know, but it worked for those songs. I mean, those songs were Profane were probably, there was more vicious songs, and it worked really well, and also worked really well with some of the doom on Profane. But on the new one, it seems like the production works really well with the way, you know, the songs. It definitely has a lot more texture, this album. Like the riffs, there's like lots more of the double riffs going on, and it has a little more mid-tempo, which was something I wanted to elaborate more on, because a lot of the I realized that we don't have quite as much of just the regular mid-tempo like we had on some of our earlier stuff, like Profanation or Iconoclasm, Catholicism, or it's just like a driving mid-tempo kind of song. And I wanted just to take at least those ideas of like those evil sounding mid-tempos and mix them in with, you know, say the more doomier stuff or some of the more aggressive stuff. And I think it worked out good. I mean, that was my contribution. I mean, everybody in the band contributed, so everybody kind of has their own little, you know, agenda maybe that they want to push a little bit on each album. It's just normal, you know. But you know, I'm happy because, you know, I think the stuff that, you know, my contribution and everyone's really did a great job as far as getting that, getting a more, I don't know, just more texture vibe. It's more old school. I could definitely see where it has a diabolical-ish or Decimate Christendom vibe too, but it has a little bit of everything, but it just has more of that feeling on it, because a Diabolical Conquest was a really textured album that we did, and it did well for us, and it's a great album, but we haven't done a huge amount of that texture stuff after that. You know, we do a little bit here and there, but, you know, I just wanted to kind of do it. And even, you know, I've been working on some newer material since then, and I've been kind of going more with that, because I think it's super cool to gives it the songs extra dynamic, extra feeling than just say the basic heavy rhythms. It almost gives like some evil turning thing in the background, you know, or something, just to piss you off and make you more pissed, you know.
Gotcha. No, definitely. was saying the whole Diabolical Conquest thing is it kind of had the same textures and vibes, and that's really what I kind of heard.
Yeah.
Where there was a lot of layers on this record, which I kind of missed over the last couple of records, which I'm really impressed with. And it just sounds. Now I know you say it's drier, but to me it sounds fuller. It sounds like a bigger record to me. I don't know if that's something that makes sense to you either, but that's kind of like
I understand what you're saying. It's weird because you could have, production's always a matter of interpretation. Some people prefer one production more than the other. I prefer it to be what I consider it more dry, where the guitars don't have like a super amount of high end bite on it. Sometimes it gets too to make it heavier, it has a lot of distortion on the high end, and I like to have more mid range in the sound than too much high end in it, because I just think hearing the riffs can make the song more eviler, because we want people to hear what's going on, and we don't want to just be like just the crunch, on the guitars and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think thinking about Diabolical Conquest, I mean, those songs that we wrote for that one, I mean, we wrote them over what, a 4-year period, about a 3-year period. We started writing it right after Mortal Throne was when the first couple of songs kind of started, and Mortal Throne was kind of going in more of that textured vibe. But then, like, what happened is after, like, around Decimate and after that, for a little while we were a 3-piece band. So I wanted to make it more realistic to play live. It was hard for us to do some of those texture stuff. And then we kind of, I think, continued a little bit with the more easier to play live kind of songs for the last couple of albums. And now we're finally getting a little more back into, a more double guitar work. And then some of the songs have like 5, 6 guitars. It will be really difficult to reproduce live, but it sounds fucking great. So it's like, I hate being limited to, 2 guitars sometimes, like in Propitiation at the end of it, I think there's at least 4 guitar parts, maybe 5. I can't remember, because every guitar part has a couple harmonies connected to it, but it just gives it that vibe. And that was like what we did, like on songs like Demonic Incarnate we would call it on Mortal Throne, where we had the feedback going in the background, we had a double guitar part, and then we had like a little walking part that was also doubled, like a double harmony thing. So that's like, when we play that song live, it's a bitch, because we had to think, fuck, which parts do we play live? Like what sounds the best or something. But it sounds so good on album that I wanted to kind of do a little more of that kind of stuff,
So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to call it the listenable years, because that's the best way I can kind of explain it.
Okay.
There was a pretty drastic change in sound, like you said, during that period in my ears to what Incantation started doing. It was a lot more raw, a lot more live, a lot more kind of, like you said, digestible, in my opinion. I totally agree. That's a great terminology for it.
Yeah.
Was that all done on purpose during that period, because you were just a 3-piece a lot of it? Or, like I said, was it just the kind of feelings and the moods that you were in at that time?
It was a mixture of both. I mean, we definitely, I definitely wanted to keep harmonies and the extra guitar parts to a minimum, because I just knew that I just didn't want to do an album where if we went to tour and play these songs that we couldn't reproduce it live. And it was just most of those tours that we did for Decimate and even for Primordial, even Primordial Domination, some of that, we did those tours with one guitar player. So I was really conscious of that. So it was a definite, I was definitely thinking about it when writing it. It's a bummer because you don't want to limit yourself, but at the same time, I just didn't want to at the same time overextend ourselves, because at that time we were just having such a hard time finding a second guitar player that would fit in the band, that we just realized that maybe we just got to kind of motorhead it, just do it as a three-piece for a while until the right person comes along. So we wrote those albums with the intention of being able to play it live and not have it lose too much of it. But because of that, there's things that, we would have definitely, those albums would have been more textured probably if nothing changed. But as far as overall song styles and stuff, I mean, a lot of it was just how we felt. I mean, around Decimate, I guess, and Primordial, and I still do now. I like to revisit some of my old school, thrash roots too. Like the Possessed, Aggression, like the shirt I'm wearing here, Aggression, killer band from Canada, like that, like just because a lot of the stuff I grew up with was, that style, like Old Sacrifice or something like that. So, those influences, they were always in the music, but a couple times on some of those albums I tried to say, okay, let's try to maybe mix up, get more of a thrash drum beat behind this riff, where maybe earlier we just would do a death metal drum beat. And for us, it was just kind of like a little throwback, because we always like to respect where we come from as a band, and part of where we come from is that thrash era. I mean, if it wasn't for those bands like Sacrifice, Voivod, and Celtic Frost, whatever, Creator, we wouldn't be death metal, So those are always, that was a part of it. Even probably even the last ones, like Vanquish and Vengeance and Dirges that we did on List, there's still a little bit of that thrash influence. And even actually, the one song that we put out, Fury's Manifesto, totally has an old school thrash death vibe to it,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It definitely has that kind of Creator feel to it a lot of the times. I totally agree.
I mean, I'm a huge Creator Pleasure to Kill fan. It's one of my favorite albums. So it's just, that, like albums like that and Dark Angel, like Darkness Descends, those ones like help mold who I am. So always doing like little, not really ripping it off, but just doing, using those influences. It's just part of my DNA. I mean, because even before I played in Incan, I was playing in Revenant, and we were more of like a death thrash kind of band, or thrash core. I don't know what the hell they called it back then, but it was like an aggressive thrash band, and we were really influenced by that stuff. So it's sometimes that stuff does come through a little bit here and there, and I think it's okay, because to me it just brings a little bit of diversity, and as long as it's not like, we're not going to do like an Anthrax like kind of song or nothing like that, or anything too commercial. Just we're going to keep it. It's going to be, if it's going to be a thrashy influence, it's going to be like super old school thrash, rough edge thrash, not the kind of nicer pristine thrash. I mean, that's okay, that stuff, but I love the rough edge. I mean, like for me, like album like Pleasure to Kill or Possess Seven Churches is that kind of stuff. Aggressions, The Full Treatment. Those are just amazing classic thrash albums. And in the way of thrash, I would have preferred thrash to go than to go kind of direction that it did. I mean, nothing against some of the bigger thrash bands, but I just love that rougher edge thrash better. Just I thought well, to me, all music's better when it's dirtier.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. No, and I agree. If you even look at it kind of in a bigger picture, like look at what Testament did. They kind of had that melodic period, and now they're kind of getting uglier and dirtier and more thrashy again too. So I agree, that sound is kind of the better sound, and that's what all thrash heads like ourselves really dig anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think a band like Testament, they they got caught up in super big business music wise. I mean, and it gets, it's difficult when you have that much invested in you, with a big label and stuff. You get pressured into doing stuff that might be more not 100% where you would prefer to go to, but you have to please other people, you know? And I think a band like Testament these days doesn't have to answer anybody, you know? But back in the late 80s, they had to answer to, you know, because if they didn't sell enough records, you know, to pay for their $1 million budget, they were fucked, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
I think that for a band like them, it must be more freedom to be able to actually do what you want, you know? We never been in that situation where we were like, there was so much invested in us that we had to produce like a hit single or something like that. I would crack under the pressure because I can't just make music just because people tell me how to make it a certain way.
Oh, absolutely. So I kind of wanted a little talk about the new record too. So it looks like you have a new guitar player now that wasn't on the record, correct?
Well, he played some leads on the record. Basically, Sonny Lombardozzi, he towards the end of the album, he was kind of he really wanted something else out of the album than we wanted out of the album, and he basically just quit towards the end of trying to get it all together. But there were issues because some of the songs, some of the leads, and some of the songs we wanted, you know, done a little differently than how they were. And since he left, we had Luke come in, which was playing bass for us on tour a lot. He's been with us for like 5 years sessioning. So, and he's a guitar player, so he was able to jump right in, and he, you know, threw in a couple of leads just to kind of finish off the few parts that, you know, we weren't necessarily happy with. I mean, we're happy with the stuff that's on there. We're all happy with, but there was other stuff that Sonny wanted to put on the album that just, to us, and it's all perception, you know, because it doesn't, just because we don't think it fits doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just, you know, it's just a matter of taste or whatever, you know, but it works out better because I totally understand his side of it. I mean, he doesn't want to compromise his own integrity on the album. And if it's to that point, then of course it's best for him to leave. And now he's working on some solo project. I don't know much about it, and he's able to do it his way, and it's like, more power to you. And that, you know, we support him 100%, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of ask was, did Luke add any flavors or anything to the record? Because I saw a couple solos were done, but so was it more just the solos, or was everything kind of?
It was just the solos. Luke added, I think, 2 solos, maybe 3, but I think 2 I can think of. And that was it. Most of the rhythms on the album were done by me. Sonny did a few parts here and there, but most of the rhythms were done by me. Most of the solos were done by Sonny, and most of the harmonies were done by me. Like I did the harmonies and most of the rhythms. Sonny did most of the solos and some rhythms. Some rhythms it benefited. He's a super tight player, and some of the rhythms benefited his playing better than mine, so he did more of that stuff, you know. I'm way more better at the slower mid tempos and the doom stuff. When it comes to super technical riffs, you know,
let somebody else do it.
Yeah, it's just being honest, you know.
That's really cool. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about, you kind of had a rotating lineup of vocalists for a really long period of time, and then around 2003, 2004, you kind of said, I kind of get this vibe of like, just screw it, I'm going to do it myself. Is that kind of what happened, or?
I guess so.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead. I'll reply after.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of like, it almost feels like, hell, I'm going to do it myself because I know I can do it just as good as anybody else, if not better. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about 2004 forward, because it's when, in my eyes, the band really kind of crystallized a vocal style or a vocal sound. Like you have a very distinct early death metal kind of vocal style that like really works with Incantation. So I wanted to see if maybe you just at that point in time realized that was the better direction to go and keep looking for other singers. Like that's kind of what I was wondering.
Well, I mean, once Mike Sayas left, and he left with good reason. I mean, he we were doing a tour with Goat Whore and Immolation. Really great tour. And the second show in was in Queens, New York, and he ended up his friend got into a fight. He ended up trying to break up the fight, and then after he realized he got stabbed in the arm, actually, because the dude was actually stabbing his friend instead of punching his friend. So he went in the middle of them, kind of went break it up, and he got slashed in his arm. He had to cancel the tour, and after that, he was kind of like, I guess I'm kind of done, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I understand. I mean, I would have kept going myself, but I can understand. I know our booking agent was super pissed that our vocalist got stabbed at the show, but he was just trying to help us. Nobody knew that dude was stabbing somebody, It wasn't. But anyway, so he left for a good reason. But we were really sad because we really liked Mikey Sayas a lot. I mean, he was a great guy, and I think he did a great job on the album. It was just fun to tour with. But anyway, after he left, Kyle and I, we both just kind of, had a one-to-one talk about it. And he basically said that, one of us has to do vocals if you want to keep the consistency there. And he's like, I'm not going to do it, so you have to do it. And I was like,
the answer.
And I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, I don't know if I can do it because that time I never did vocals. I never wanted to do vocals. I kind of always looked at myself more like a Mike Torreo or something. Just wanted to be a songwriter and not really be a vocalist for a frontman. Especially early on, I was way too shy, to do that. I wanted to hide behind my guitar and just play. But anyway, we talked about it, and I said, I'll try. That's all I could do is try. So I basically, it took me about a year for me to get prepared to do it. I listened to the I made like a set list of different eras of the band and would work on those vocals in my basement and just kind of growl until I felt like I was matching the tones on everything. So, I used Incantation as like my training ground vocal wise. But then once I started to get a little bit better at it, I was like, crap. Now I got to figure out how to play guitar and do vocals too, because I never did that either. And that's a whole nother thing, because if you're playing guitar, you can't put enough effort into the vocals because you're concentrating on your guitar, and then you have a habit of for me, I hum some guitar riffs to myself. So if I'm doing vocals, my fingers want to kind of follow my voice instead of following the riff. It took me a while to break that. So it took about approximately a year's time, and then we played our first shows. Our first shows were in Mexico. We played 3 shows. And we videotaped them just to kind of see as a test. And the show went over really good. And I listened back to it, and I was like, okay, it sounds pretty good. It was, it kind of reminded me of like really early Max Cavalera, like on, what was it, on Morbid Vision, So I was just like, that's a pretty good start. I'm like, Morbid Vision is one of my favorite albums ever, So I was like, okay, I can live with this. And I thought about it, it's like, okay, even if maybe I never be able to do the lows properly or whatever, I could still, if I sound close to Max Cavalera, I'm not doing bad, it's just the way it's gonna have to be. But over time, it's just the more you do it, the better you get. And my influences vocal wise obviously were Craig Pillard and Daniel Corchado and Mike Sayas. I mean, they were all great vocalists, and then, also Will Romer too was an influence, but then, like the people I said before, like Jeff Pizzara from Possessed, Chris Reefer from Autopsy, just, all those old, what's his name? Is it Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost, or like the demos and that first album? I love those vocals. I think he's one of the best death metal vocalists. So there's a lot of stuff like Necrovore, all those obscure bands. Those are all influence. Like Sarcophago was a big influence vocal wise. So it's like I took what, you know, I learned from all the other guys doing vocals at Incantation, and I, you know, after a while I got more comfortable and I started adding a little bit of, you know, Wagner Antichrist in there, a little bit of Jeff Pizzera, just all that stuff kind of just naturally fell in. Even old Chuck Shoulder, like Scream Bloody War era Chuck Shoulder stuff like that was an influence. So now my vocals kind of became like smorgasbord of all my influences plus all the former vocalists in Incantation. And it was only within the last, say, I don't know, I guess the last 10 years, maybe a little less, is when I really started to get more and more comfortable with doing vocals. Because it just, even when I was doing it in like, what, '03 or, yeah, I guess it was '03 until about 2010 or something, I was doing it, but I still always felt a little bit like, I hope I don't suck too much. You know, I try my best. You know, I don't know. I just didn't have that confidence in it. But then at a certain point, I started feeling like, okay, yeah, you know, I was able to have that little bit of extra cockiness that a vocalist needs live to be able to, you know, command the crowd, just to be able to give the like once I was able to give the performance I felt like the fans deserved and I felt comfortable with, then I started to get more comfortable. You know, it wasn't easy though. I mean, now it's great. I love doing vocals. I love that aspect of it. But at first, I hated it. I would even live. I felt like a dork. Like I have to try. I used to forget what to say in between songs. You know, I have to think about what I want to say, and then I get to the song and like, fuck, I don't. My mind goes blank. You know.
Gotcha. Cool. No, hey, you know what? They're really strong. So I'm just going to tell you right now, you can hear the progression and the growth. So great work. I just want to let you know, like, I think you have one of those more original, stronger kind of dirty death metal vocals I've heard in quite some time. So especially on this last record. Yeah, I really
appreciate that. It's been nice because over the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, I started hearing a lot more compliments on, you know, how good the vocals are, and good enough where like people want me to do vocals on their albums and stuff, you know, which, you know, even though I'm always going to be self-conscious about my vocals, it's like if other bands think they're good enough to be on their album, then I guess it can't be terrible, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's cool. So I kind of want to ask you, like, if you could look back to the early days to now. So if you could go back and talk to yourself in the 90s, would you tell yourself anything different? Do you think you've really just followed the course that you would always have followed all along? Do you feel like there is something that, you know, that you would do differently for, you know, 90s Incantation versus 2020?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to change anything because I'm really happy at where I'm at the moment, you know. But I mean, yeah, I mean, first of all, I would have, you know, believed myself to do vocals in the beginning because, you know, let's be honest about it. You know, I had great vocalists in the band. They're absolutely, I mean, Craig Pillard and Daniel Corchado and Mike says are phenomenal vocalists, and Will. But the thing was, it wasn't really fair to them because I really had a distinct way that I wanted them done. And, you know, if someone plays in the band and they're not able to express themselves vocally the way they want to, and, you know, have me telling them, do it like this, do it like that, you know, or, you know, I was, you know, it's not fair to whoever's doing vocalists, you know, whoever's doing vocals for them. It wasn't like I took somebody, I had somebody do vocals in the band and said, okay, just do whatever you want. You know, it wasn't that at all. It was like, you know, I want it this way. And not that I mean, I would let them put the vocals however they wanted, as long as I thought it sounded good. I was fine with it. But I would, you know, really, you know, say coaching them or try to coach them on what to do live. I mean, not so much on Golgotha because luckily with that, Craig was doing such a good job that I didn't really have to. But after that, with Daniel and Mike, I did have to push them a little bit more into doing it my way. So I understand why they wouldn't want to leave, because why do you want to be in a band? I mean, some people don't mind just being, a sideman or whatever, but if they're going to be in the band, they want to express themselves their way. So yeah, I would definitely just did the vocals myself from the beginning, knowing now that I could have done it, just so I didn't have to have that problem. Because, it would be nice to have consistency throughout the years of the same vocalist, but also just to be able to not have to, push people and do, even session members we had on tour, it was a disaster. I'd have to be like, no, do it like this, do it like, and it's like, I'm like thinking to myself, this is fucking crazy, because, it's like having somebody the whole time I'm playing guitar, no, do it like this, do it like that. And I'm like, let me just fucking play, So I was giving people unfair criticism, because I was kind of a control freak a lot of times in the 90s, because the band I started the band and I really, really wanted it to be a certain way. If I would have realized that earlier on, probably things would be a lot different. I definitely I definitely gave a lot of people the benefit of the doubt that they could do better than what they did a lot of times. Like I had a problem where I thought that, like, being in a band for me at that was a dream come true, and I would do anything for the band. It was just, the band was the most important entity in my life, and I just could not understand how anything possibly can come before that. And anybody who was in the band that anything came before it, I looked at it almost like that's a betrayal of the band, because the band has to be the most important thing. But you never find, or very rarely do you find, anybody else that joins your band that has the same care of the band that you do. They have their own wants, and some people like to play in the band for a little while, and then they're like, okay, I had enough of this touring stuff and doing albums. I want to move on to the next chapter of my life. If I would have thought with a more mature mind, it would have been easier to deal with, instead of just thinking that, it was pretty arrogant on my part. Like, I would just let people, work with people and be like, well, I'm thinking to myself, I'm giving these people a great opportunity. I don't understand why they're not doing everything exactly the way I think it should be done. I mean, that's, it's young thinking, and after going through it, what seemed like a trillion times, I started to realize that obviously no one's going to give a shit about the band as much as I do. And to be honest with you, I was wrong, because I found Kyle, and Kyle ended up, part of the reason why Kyle lasted so long is because he does sincerely enjoy the band, and he was appreciative of getting the opportunity early on, and he made the best of it, and he became such an important asset to the band. And same thing with Chuck Sherwood. I mean, he's an extreme important part of the band, but a lot of people, it doesn't, they have other things in life, or they have other problems. Not everyone's life, is as easy as mine to be able to do the band, or just have the will to want to do it. Other people have other problems, get in the way of the band. There's a lot of stuff I would change, but at the same time, I wouldn't change anything, because I'm happy where I'm at now, and I can't really complain, because I have lived my dream as a musician. So it's like, I'm not going to sit back and complain about, these people being dumb, or me being dumb, or all of us being dumb, because part of being dumb is what made me smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. You can only grow by learning. I completely understand.
Yeah, make a lot of mistakes. The music industry is terrible, because you get people that are like me, that are very passionate about the music and are not excited to deal with business stuff, and then once you realize that you have no choice except you have to do the crappy work with the fun work or whatever to make things work properly. But early on, you just kind of blow it off, because you just want to play music and stuff, and you make bad decisions because of that. It's terrible.
No, absolutely. So I'm going to just ask you a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. But the biggest question I have right now is, what brought you back to Relapse? Because I remember reading a while ago that you and Relapse were not in best of terms in any way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
then now you came back, and I think you probably made one of your strongest records ever with this new record. And I'm really glad that you have a label that seems to, they really seem like they're pushing it. Like, it's really nice to see. But like, basically, what brought you back to them after, 15 years?
Yeah. Well, it's true. There was a lot of bad times with Relapse in the 90s. It was a strange time for both us and Relapse in the 90s. Because both of us were learning our trade. We were learning how to be in a band and be in kind of a semi-professional band. They were learning how to become a real record company from just releasing like 7 inches and stuff. So both of us had lots and lots of growing pains and unrealistic expectations on how to deal with things. And throw that in mixed with inner band turmoil, and add the fact that in the 90s, the scene switched over from death metal to black metal, where one album, Golgotha, everyone loved and cared about, and it was such a great album, and it's grown great, and then Moral Throne comes out, and nobody cares about it because, Dark Throne Immortal coming or something, or Mayhem and stuff. So there's a lot of dynamics that caused everybody to just not think straight. I mean, Relapse were becoming a big label, but they were still looking at things from very underground way. And part of what pissed me off is that when we were having problems with our lineup and stuff like that, they thought that they had a opinion in the situation, And I was like, you don't have an opinion on the situation. I'm with these guys all the time. I know what this band is about. I started this band, and you don't get an opinion on it. And they because I didn't let them have an opinion, they got kind of pissed off at me about a couple things. And it just, things they got involved in aspects of the our band that they shouldn't have. And that caused me to be really annoyed at them about it. And, so we all made stupid decisions. And, after Infernal Storm, I just had enough. I mean, we were trying to leave them earlier, but things got fucked up. We were supposed to leave. Diabolical Conquest wasn't even supposed to be on Relapse. I think it might have been Pavement or something. I can't remember who we were talking to, but Relapse, we had a lot of problems. It really sucked in the 90s. After the initial greatness of Relapse, they did a great job for us before Golgotha and during Golgotha, but after that, it really went to shit. And once Infernal Storm came out, we realized that this is just the wrong place for us, because, I mean, I don't think I feel Infernal Storm is one of my weakest albums that I've done with the band, but the fact is that it wasn't even given proper care. It was like they just released it without really doing anything and not really wanting to, because at that time, a lot of the people working at the label were not interested in death metal. They were getting more into that Dillinger Escape Plan, or even bands like Cephalic Carnage, like weirder sounding bands. And it's fine. Mastodon, I think they had. I can't remember, but it was like that kind of stuff. And it was like, it's fine. I don't have any problem with those bands or anything. I mean, release what you want or what you believe in. But if you don't believe in us, don't release it. I mean, don't just do it. I felt that they were doing it to have street integrity, of just having one of their old school bands that they first with on the label still releasing records. Like, I just thought it was like, it made them feel cool or something like that by still doing it, but not really. No one there liked the band, believed in the band, or pushed the band. I mean, they were sending our press stuff out to all these people that wanted to hear Dillinger Escape Plan, and they get Infernal Storm, and of course they don't even give it like a reasonable list. Like, they're not even giving it to death metal people, because actually the death metal, like the underground death metal community, actually likes that album quite a lot. I think it's our worst album, but that's just personal. it actually is a pretty strong album for us as far as the fans are concerned. But it wasn't until later that it really kind of I realized it. But anyway, and after was it? I'm sorry, it was Decibel did the Hall of Fame thing, and then Relapse decided they were going to do a reissue of Onward, and basically they did a reissue of Onward and a couple of the other albums we did for them, and it just seemed like everything changed, that they were like trying to do the right thing. It was just it turned into a situation where after all this time of being away from them, when I started talking to them on the phone about stuff, I was getting better response from them than our own record company, Listable, at the time, and it just seemed like it's like, well, I brought it up to them on the phone. I was just like, do you guys have any interest in working with us at all? Just kind of wondering, and they were just like, fuck yeah. They're like, holy shit, we love you guys, it'd be so great to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, send over a deal then, and we'll look it over and stuff. And we got the deal, and the deal was like super good, like really, really, like almost everything we would have wanted in our original deal, So we're like, okay, this is looking good. And then we just started, negotiating with them more and more, and it just there was just a positive vibe. Like they were just super stoked to release that, and they were releasing all this other older stuff, and they were just doing everything they could to try to show us that they really want us back, and they were really excited to do it. And it's been amazing because they've really, for Profane Nexus, they've gone above and beyond pretty much what any label's ever done for us, that album. And I feel like they're in that same mode now, and I do like the fact that they're honest to us about stuff. They give us yes or no answers on stuff, if they could do things or can't do things or whatever. Back in the day, it was kind of like, you wouldn't get straight answers. I guess they probably realized at a certain point that it's better just to tell somebody no than to say, okay, we'll try, and because then if you leave things in a half-ass, kind of way, one person takes it as a yes, other person takes it as a no,
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the last question I'm going to ask is pretty much the state of the world today. What do you feel that you're going to be able to get out on the road anytime this year, or is it not possible at all? You think everything's going to start in 2021 again? Because I'll just tell you, for me, just for instance, the thing I miss most is going to live shows and just kind of like the camaraderie of my friends and hanging out, playing, watching, doing things like that. Has there been any talk about maybe possibly doing some shows? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we have a tour booked in Europe for November. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, because there's still a travel ban. We can all go to Europe if you want to have a 14-day quarantine for the tour, which that will not be the best prep for the tour. The quarantine might be like in jail or something. So I don't know, but anyway, yeah, I don't think. I mean, if the European tour happens, that's great. My vibe on it at the moment is that's probably going to get postponed until next year. I think everybody's just hoping that by next year things are going to start moving forward. It totally sucks because music venues and live performance is like last on the list as far as things to get back to normal, So I don't know. I mean, we're just using this time now to mostly work on some new material and, trying to do just as much stuff we could do press-wise to try to keep the name out there and stuff like that with the new album. And hopefully next year, we'll be able to tour. I mean, we look forward to it. I mean, I really hope that for this album doesn't have like a whole cycle with no touring, because I think there's a lot of good songs on the new album that would really go over well live. And I really, I don't want to be in a situation where we have another album to promote and then only get to play a few songs off this. I would like to have a tour where I could, play at least like 4 songs or something off this album, and maybe do a couple tours and switch out the songs or whatever. Because it's so difficult once a new album comes out, it's so difficult to concentrate on other albums. You end up playing like a few. You try to throw in a few cool rare ones, a few popular ones over the years, and then the few new ones. The set's done. It's like fuck. It's I mean, when we make a set list, sometimes it looks so awesome, but we're like, fuck, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. I got to cut it down to half. And then by the time we cut it down to half, it's like everything interesting sometimes gets taken out of it. And you get the choice for like one cool, obscure song, and then, like Diabolical or Carrying On Prophecies are kind of like our standards now. And we'll throw in one from, we can't even throw one from each album, which really sucks, because I mean, having 12 albums and you play a few new ones, you still can't fit them all. It's a pain in the ass. Luckily, we have new songs that hopefully people enjoy enough where they won't mind hearing some new ones. We've been really fortunate though, because every time we do, we put out a new album, we play a lot of the new album stuff on a show. It always goes over just as well as if we would have just played a normal set. I mean, we've done shows even for like Decimate Christendom. We played at one of the Gathering of the Vista Legions Fest out in LA, and we played like 80% of Decimate and just threw like Ibex Moon and like I think Deliverance and what do you call it, Diabolical Conquest at the end. And the show was just as good as any other show, which was kind of fun for us because we were doing it just like, fuck it, we want to play these new songs. We're going to do it for a show. But we always like to switch up our set too when we're on tour. We don't want to go if we do 2 tours or 3 tours in the U.S. for the same album. We don't want to be one of those bands where you're hearing the same set each time. I mean, that's fine if people don't want to go the second or third time, but the people that do are going to get a treat in the set. They're not going to get the same bullshit they seen last time, because I hate it when bands do that, because I'm a metal fan myself, and if I see a band tour more than once, I want to see I want some treats thrown in there. I want something that's good. I want them to do some rare song that they're only going to do this one time, and if you don't see it, you're a poser kind of thing.
Cool. So I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight. It's been really great. I hope to get to see you out on the road before 2021. That's all I'll say. Like, that would be great. But other than that, if you have any last words or anything you want to say to the people that are going to be watching this, I appreciate your time.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for his support. I mean, all our old school fans, all newer people getting into it, all people have been with us the whole time. Even the people that used to like us think we suck now. It's great. All you guys are important to me, and it's I'm just so appreciative because I do get to live my dreams and goals that I had as a child, so it's, to be able to play music and do albums for me is just an absolute pleasure and honor. And I'm just grateful that people give enough of a crap about what we do that I could still do it, because I never thought that we would ever even have an album out as Incantation. So just to know that we're on our 11th or 12th or whatever it is now is just the fact that I can't even count how many albums we have is mind-boggling. So I totally appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that's been definitely supporting us on this the Sect of Our Divinity press. All the press, our label Relapse, our PR people, everybody, fans have been totally awesome. Great vibe. We definitely look forward to being on the road, just hanging out, talking to everybody. And if you can, just try to keep up to date with us on our website, theincantation.com, and normal stuff, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. But just if you can, also one thing I did want to mention that I've been thinking about lately too. I mean, of course, we appreciate 100% if you buy the stuff from our website, especially now with quarantine. And it's great if you buy from other reputable websites, or like Relapse, of course, is a good site to buy our albums at. But also support your local record stores too, because especially with this pandemic, I mean, they were probably struggling already trying to find ways to make things happen. And it's really important because I know it's easy to order stuff online, but if you really should make the effort to support somebody, because most of the people that are running record stores are guys that really love music and they're doing it for, you know, the love of collecting. And it would just be a shame to have that go away. Because I know my upbringing, I used to go on, you know, I used to have my weekly runs of record stores that I go to. Like I had like 5 of them, and I would just go to each one and go through the same record bin every week and try to look for whatever that new record is. One of the stores might have or something like that. And I just think it's important, because it's sad that you know, a lot of these record stores are struggling, you know. I mean, and it goes for any small business really, but record companies obviously, you know, are a close place in my heart, you know.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you very much again, John. It's been a great talk, and I look forward to future records from you as well. And be safe, all right?
Thank you. I totally appreciate it. It's really killer.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.